Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
I named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is a man who thinks that life is good, but it can be better. It's Frank. How are you today?
It can be better. I'm good, but I could be better.
Yeah, good. Yeah. You know, this show is good, but it can be better when you start talking. It gets better immediately.
It does. What would make this show better for me would be if you told me what you're drinking today.
I am still on my Belgian kick, and so I am drinking a Hoegaarden, which is the original Belgian wheat beer.
Is it? The original?
Yeah, it's as old as 1445. Did you know that Hoegaarden is that old?
I think I knew that, actually.
Hoegaarden being the town in Belgium where the monks crafted their ale, and the company now makes their recipe from almost 600 years ago.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Hoegaarden is the I first had a Hoegaarden in Paris, of all places, on the Paris trip, as it is known.
Yes.
If I was on a sitcom.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful, and Hoegaarden is great. I love it so much. I would say it's pretty standard as far as wheat beer goes: coriander, orange peel, the like. But it's delicious, and it's smooth. Right, Frank?
It is. I love Hoegaarden. It is one of my favorites, and it's one of. I would say Hoegaarden got me on the Belgian kick, and that's what opened me up to. Belgians being my favorite style of beer.
Same. Belgians are my favorite.
Yeah.
Yep. And the people, really, they are lovely.
And the frites. And the frites.
Mm-hmm. And the frites, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the frites. And the frites.
Cool.
What are you drinking?
Free spirit there. I'm also drinking a Belgian. I am working through a stash of Belgian beers that I was given for Christmas. So I get to spend January drinking Belgian beers.
Nice.
And this one is one I had not heard of. My wife got me a very nice selection of Belgian beers from a local beer shop that I guess has like 600 beers or something crazy like that. And so she picked up a whole big variety pack for me for Christmas. And this is a Corsendonk Christmas Ale, which I have never heard of. But look, it's got like a stained glass.
It's a pretty bottle
label.
It's
got
got a Madonna and Child in the middle.
It does,
even.
yes, and it's sort of a sigil that sort of looks like a pipe organ or something, or a church around them.
Yeah,
but yes, got a Madonna and Child on the bottle. Very nice art, and it is a brown ale, and it's delicious. It has that very powerful, like nasal, notes that you get from a Belgian.
Yep. If you don't know things about beer, when you say powerful nasal, that doesn't sounds gross.
Doesn't sound appealing when I say it.
No,
I guess it doesn't.
No, but I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. I like your nasals.
Thank you. Powerful nasal notes. That's what we promise you here on Beer with Geeks. That is the Beer with Geeks guarantee. Powerful nasal notes in every episode.
I thought you were going to say in every bite.
In every bite.
Powerful nasal notes in
every
bite.
Ear bite.
Yeah. I heard you work in marketing.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it, huh? I'm off the clock now. I'm off the clock.
Yeah, that's all. Wait,
I leave that behind.
It's like education. I don't have to remember things, dates, literary devices.
I try
authors,
to keep that.
whatever.
I keep my work and it's work-life balance. I try to have a separation there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, your work-life balance. I turn my brain off when the workday is done.
Yes, that's it.
And I hope I can rev that engine by the time the day starts.
9 a.m.
Again.
I'm like, oh crap, got to start this thing again.
Yeah, you got to jiggle the key a bit, and then jiggle the steering wheel and shift the shift lock. These are the things that I need in the morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, Frank, on Christmas Day in the morning, HBO Max released Wonder Woman 84.
Yes, sir.
The much anticipated sequel to Wonder Woman, which came out several years prior. We've been waiting to see this movie for a long time, and the hour was finally upon us. Did you watch? Were you able to watch on Christmas Day?
I watched it the next day.
The next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we haven't really talked too much about this movie offline, and there obviously are a lot of very strong opinions about it, one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I perhaps predictably, I kind of come down somewhere in the middle because I don't think it was as good as the first Wonder Woman film.
Yep. One we could say it was good, but it could be better.
Hey!
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would be, and yeah, like that's the joke, but like, honestly, that's kind of the truth. I think that it definitely has third act problems.
Sure.
I think that my biggest takeaway from this movie is that while it's just okay, and it could be better, it's not terrible. And I feel like a lot of just even watching it one day after release, I was already hearing this movie sucks. And so I was bracing myself, and maybe this has to do partly with why I feel the way I do. I was bracing myself for something truly awful, and then it was like, fine. It's not great, but it's fine. And I think it's it actually, if you watch it and literally imagine you're reading a comic book, like it's a comic book.
It is a
come
comic
to
book.
life.
I
and
agree.
so a lot of the things that are flaws, a lot of the flaws are suffer from that. Like it's a decent comic book story and maybe not a super strong movie. But it's a decent comic book story.
I agree. That's a good assessment. I think film Twitter, or just Twitter in general, has a heart. It's either a masterpiece or travesty.
Right. Yeah.
There's no in between. Either that scene was iconic or you're trash.
Yeah.
And so seeing the division online, like with this and that, I was like, oh, so it's probably somewhere in the middle then,
Yes.
Like if you can't agree, it's probably just a fine movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It went by really quick, I think, for 2.5 hours. I thought it did a service to Wonder Woman. It gave her a strong arc. It had good action sequences. It was fun. I got to see more strong chemistry between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, and I got some Pedro Pascal and Kristen Wiig action.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for much more than that, and it delivered on those things. So, and I think it was playing with the tropes of the 80s.
Yes.
And I don't think people were expecting that, and I think it threw people because we're in the middle of the nostalgia part, or moving out of the nostalgia of the 80s, which aren't really playing with 80s tropes so much as using them over again.
Yeah.
Right? Like those kids are neighborhood kids who solve a problem. That's not changing the trope. That's just reusing it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so what Wonder Woman did is basically take the 80s body swap movie and raise some questions about it. It took the material, the absolute materialism of the 80s, which is also currently reflected in the 21st century right now, and it said, this isn't great, everyone.
Yeah, and that was a pretty clear message. Like, that it was like taking an 80s thing and applying it to today, right? And like sort of teaching us a lesson for today that we can learn from our recent history.
That's right. And I think it's certainly not everybody who disliked it, but I think sometimes when a film can get preachy like that, or a superhero film, and somebody doesn't really want to hear that message, it becomes bad.
Because you can immediately write it off as cheesy, right? As cheesy or just a bunch of like, okay, dad, like, okay, mom telling me that I should eat my vegetables.
That's right.
People will immediately write it off if it's something that they're not really primed to hear. There's right. Yeah.
And I think a part of that might have been that just people weren't primed to hear it after 2020.
Yep.
I think that could be, there's in some ways a difference between escapism and escapism with a lesson. And I don't know if people were looking for a strong lesson, and so maybe it just played to the wrong ears on Christmas Day, no less, the day after people get stuff. Really, they ask for stuff and they get it, mostly, and to a certain part of the world, and then they watch a movie at night with their families that say, hey, like you wanting and needing things. Mm-hmm. That's actually not great for the world.
If you have HBO Max, you are probably privileged enough that was the kind of Christmas you had, or something like it. And so if you have HBO Max and you're watching this movie, yeah, it is exactly that message that you just espoused. Like it's like, hey, this materialism is not great, and not just materialism, but like, thinking of yourself first, to the way that Pedro Pascal's character sort of encouraged people to do.
That's right.
Putting yourself and your needs first.
Right. It's not a mistake this movie ends at Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. The season of perpetual giving, right? Mm-hmm. Or the idea is like the way that it's certainly even shown in the film is that, this is the idea, like sacrificial love, like you're giving of yourself. That's what Diana represents in the film, because she has to sacrifice her love for Steve in spoilers for Wonder Woman 84. She has to sacrifice her love for Steve all over again. Before it's not her telling everybody, oh, you should be good, like Santa Claus, who's perpetually nice, except for the Rudolph Santa Claus, who's a mean jerk. And
skinny.
And skinny. Who's ever heard of a skinny Santa, Frank? I mean, come on. She leads by example, even if the world doesn't really know that. The audience knows that. The audience watches her say goodbye twice, and this is a woman who is not used to saying goodbye to things. Really, I mean, when we're introduced to her in Wonder Woman, she lives on an island of immortal people.
Yes.
She's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years already. She's not used to saying goodbye to things, especially people. Antiope is the first person that she's really had to say goodbye to.
That's right, yeah.
And then she says goodbye to Themyscira, and then presumably she has to say goodbye to everybody that she knows when they die in the 70 or so years that she's been around. But obviously when we meet her at the beginning of the movie, she's cut herself off from people. Right? She doesn't hang around. She's not a symbol of hope or anything like that. She's just like, I'm in and I'm out. The first person that she seems to have connected to in 70 years is oh my gosh, Dr. Minerva. What is her first name?
Barbara,
thank you. I just was very formal.
Yeah, well, hey, she worked hard to get that doctorate, and she deserves to be called doctor. Yeah,
she has a lot of degrees. Yeah,
she does. She does.
Tons of them, so many. And so I liked what they did with her character. They they took the time to explore that her as a person. And Wonder Woman, kind of like Superman in a lot of ways, sits in that category of people who do not understand that they are also people with feelings and emotions and wants and needs and desires. And I think this movie got that across very well, while also wrapping up the Steve Trevor Wonder Woman storyline.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think another thing this movie does really well, it has a really good sense of Wonder Woman's brand of heroics, in that, like at the beginning of the movie, like you said, when she's sort of appearing and disappearing and just sort of doing saving the day in a bunch of different cases. I thought that very much rang like a Superman movie to me. That sequence where she is just like doing a bunch of like almost every day saving of people.
Yes.
Really dug that, and I thought that was a good shorthand to show us like what she's been up to, what her what she represents to people, which, as you said, is like it's not really she hasn't been like the symbol of hope and everything that she sometimes can be, because she's being very sort of anonymous in the way that she's at the beginning of the film is handling things. I thought that they did a really good job of it, communicated a lot very concisely, and it was a lot of fun to watch that scene.
I agree.
For me, that's like the kind of super heroics that I enjoy, is sort of the everyday stuff and the like doing it just because it's the right thing to do, and not necessarily needing it to be the world is in peril and I need to save the day. Just like sort of getting a cat out of a tree type of stuff. I really enjoy when they infuse that stuff.
Because they're just good people for the sake, and they're doing good for the sake of doing good, not because it's out of some need of the world's going to collapse in on itself, which is what we get to.
We get there later in the movie, but I enjoy when there's both of those things. Yeah,
I agree, especially even when she's taking the time to, save the child. It's not just about, I got to stop these guys and screw the collateral damage. It's like, I'm going to stop everybody. And in this movie, she uses non-offensive weapons, like really, like there's no sword. It's all tiara and bracelets and shield.
Lasso.
Not tiara, lasso. Yeah, not shield. And so they are in some ways non-combative. They're almost like to protect more than and defend more than harm. And I like that about the direction they took for her.
What did
Keeper
you think?
Of the peace,
yes,
not
Keeper
a soldier.
Of the peace. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes. What did you think of the invisible jet?
I thought that was a clever way to do the invisible jet. I thought that was really fun. It gave Diana like a bit of a power that we've never really seen her use or do before, and she was like, "Oh, I've been trying to turn things invisible. I only managed like a tennis ball or whatever she had said, but now I can do a jet." And I was like, okay, this is it's funny that some of the things that like a movie about an immortal princess, Amazonian princess, there's some body swapping, there's a magic stone like for wishes and like all this different stuff, and I'm like, but the invisible jet, yeah, I thought it. I weirdly think the invisible jet was an unnecessary nod in some ways.
I agree. It actually kind of made me like that was the one thing I kind of rolled my eyes at. I was like, come on, really? Not the one thing, but it was like one of the first things where I was like, all right, maybe that's a little cheesy, guys. Like I appreciate the fan service. That felt like a Jeff Johns thing to me.
Sure. Oh, this movie. If you're familiar with Jeff Johns' work, it's Jeff Johns all over the place.
Honestly, as I am Jeff Johns fan like number one, but I think that a lot of the things that were not great about this as a film felt like Jeff Johns.
I agree.
So
I agree. I like his comics.
I like
a
his
lot.
Comics. I like his comics, but
yeah.
Maybe not a screenwriter.
I usually feel that way about anything that he ends up writing for TV, like his Smallville episodes that he wrote. I don't think that those are the strongest episodes. It's just a different medium, writing for comics and writing for television or movies. And he gets the characters. Like I guess it has nothing to do with characters, but some story beats, lines of dialogue. It's just like you're just writing for a different audience in a film.
Yeah.
And I just don't, that just felt like it was a shoehorned moment, but I appreciated it all the same, I guess. What was weird to me is that a guy who basically just used a joystick to fly a plane before could fly a fighter jet. That was the that was the suspension of disbelief that I had a hard time following through with. Like you've established the rules of this world. You know what I mean? She can swing from a lightning bolt with a lasso, no problem. Sure. That's great. It's all magic. You're just a regular person who might be body swapped in from, a magic stone. But you're just supposed to be the regular person to who you always were.
Yes.
The only thing that kind of bridged it to me is that the guy was an engineer or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought that, okay, so maybe, Steve has some of that guy's know-how and skills intact just because why not?
I just sort of headcanoned it where, okay, he's got Steve's, identity and memories and stuff. Maybe he's got his, muscle memory, too. You know what I mean? I just sort of – that's just how I explained it away in my own mind. But, yeah, it is sort of there's a few things that are a little bit of a stretch.
If I was a kid, I wouldn't care. And if I was a kid who, as an adult, was talking about this movie, I said, just because it is, shut up. That would be my answer.
Yes.
It doesn't actually – it doesn't matter.
If it was a comic book – if it was a comic book, I wouldn't have the same issue.
That's right. Yeah, to your point. It's the Grant Morrison thing. A kid, if a kid's watching The Little Mermaid, they do not demand to know how the crab is talking or singing. An adult demands to know how that works.
Yes.
Sorry, that at the end of the day, that's not meant for you. It's really not meant. It's not meant for the unimaginative adult.
And so that's sort of, partway through the movie, I was starting to think to myself, because again, I hadn't seen spoilers, but I had just seen that the general opinion was sort of meh on this movie, and some people even saying oh God, that was horrible. So I'm all right, I'm trying to justify in my mind as I'm going through the movie, what exactly what is horrible about this? Because so far it's fine, but it's not horrible. It's not offensive to me in any way. And moments like those were a little bit okay, I can see where maybe an adult wanting a different kind of movie wouldn't appreciate it. But I also feel like it's maybe adults who are not comic book fans per se. They like superhero movies, but maybe it's a lot of people, and not exclusively. I'm sure we'll get emails from people who are well, I've been reading Wonder Woman forever, and I didn't like the movie, and that's fine. But I do think that a large contingent of the people I personally saw complaining about it on Twitter are people who I know are less in the comics fandom and maybe came to superheroes through TV and movies.
That's right, and that is a different kind of superhero fan than a comic reader. It's not all the same basket. It's really it's like a multi-layered tea cake kind of thing,
yes.
And
and it has some nasal notes and it's
exactly
very powerful
very powerful nasal notes. Wonder Woman 84.
Not for everybody.
It's just no. But going off of more characters, let's talk about Barbara Minerva. You have Kristen Wiig doing the 80s trope. No one notices me because I wear glasses, and then she doesn't wear glasses and people notice her.
Yes.
But it's all because she wishes to be like Diana, right? And we see established early in the film that even though Diana does not give attention to anybody, attention certainly comes her way, partly to comment on the toxic masculinity of the 80s and the present day.
Yes.
Partly just to showcase that people love Diana just in general. People fawn over Diana just because it is who she is. There's something quote unquote magical about her. Sure. And Barbara wants some of that magic for herself, and by wishing for that, she's robbing Diana of herself, right? It's like a slow power transference.
Yes.
Which I liked because it raised the stakes for Diana.
Uh-huh.
Sort of she's
within
gonna
reason.
survive, but
Yeah.
still, but it does raise the stakes for Diana, which is good. Who can go toe to toe with Doomsday or Superman or whatever, and Steppenwolf. So it's not we know she's powerful. Ares, the god of war. We know she's powerful. So I liked that, and I also liked that it gave reason for her to become a bad person. The idea of what you want is not what you need. Those are two different things. So I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but general rule of character development for anything for writing is that character has four basic things. They have a want, a need, a lie, and a ghost. And the character, like the lie is what they believe about the world that ends up not being true. The ghost is something that they're haunted by, whether that be a literal ghost or something from their past or, something like that. The want is something that they think that they desire. Sometimes it's the MacGuffin of the story, like anything like that. But the need is something deeply ingrained in them that they might not even know that they want themselves. And so I thought the writing did that very well for its main character and its two antagonists.
Yes.
I thought Diana's with the difference between like wanting acceptance in the world and wanting and feel like wanting to be with Steve but really needing to let go of Steve. Those are two different things, right? She wanted Steve back, but she really needed to let go of the past, and because that is what she is haunted by. See how they all tie together. I thought that Barbara's was pretty strong because like she wanted to be like Diana. That's her wish. But she really wants to be recognized for her own person, for her own strengths. She rattles off all these degrees that she has with Diana. Like she's strong. She's a remarkable person unto herself. She drops off food for a homeless man. Like she clearly has always done. Like that, she's a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the want gets in the way of the need.
Yeah.
But then her need, but then her want becomes the apex predator, right? To become something better, which also weirdly to me felt like comic, but not in a great way.
Yeah.
It was like, I need to make her cheetah somehow. So let's do it this way, I guess.
And that's I could have done without Cheetah in this movie. Like I don't think Cheetah was necessary to tell this story. I feel like Cheetah was an add-on because it's one of the most well-known Wonder Woman villains, and you want to you're doing a sequel, you want to play with the Rogues Gallery. But I think Maxwell Lord was enough for this story, and I don't really think Cheetah was necessary. And honestly, there was a lot of. I feel like the beginning of you talked about Kristen Wiig's, the trope of the woman wearing glasses who no one notices, and then she gets a makeover and everyone suddenly is all over her. That parts of her, especially as she went on to become Cheetah towards the end, I was getting some Michelle Pfeiffer, Selena Kyle vibes off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for me to tell how much of it was sort of tongue in cheek. We're doing an 80s trope. And how much of it was maybe just not the best choice. I don't know. I hope it was intentional, but it didn't really come off that way.
My guess is that it was intentional because the Steve body swap thing is also intentional.
Yes.
Right? That's an intentional 80s trope. It's big, but Wonder Woman.
Right.
Right. And so, not exactly big because the person that Steve was not a child, but it's I would say that it's intentional, but both of those tropes are played earnestly, and I think that's probably where they don't exactly land, because I get that you're supposed to be making fun of them, but because everything is so earnest, you're not actually really making fun of them.
There's a fine line between parody and imitation. Like there's a fine line between, you were saying before, there is poking fun at tropes or doing a spin on a trope, and then there is just doing the trope and just being like, look, see, we did the thing. Remember this from the 80s? And it's like, yeah, that you're not saying it. You're not making any commentary on it, though. You're just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's right.
And that's sort of, I guess that's what I'm getting at with, I felt like Cheetah was a little bit like they weren't saying anything. They didn't have a point of view on the trope. They didn't have commentary on it. They just sort of did it and just like, okay, you did it.
That's right. I think the commentary part of it would be the transference of power. I think that was supposed to be the commentary on it, but it also was a plot device. And so, like, it just, like, it worked, but it didn't work. Like, I maybe had to think about it too hard. Because even I watched it with my wife on Christmas night, and before before Barbara starts to become, quote unquote, become evil, she was like, how are they going to explain that she's a villain? Like, that was her question. Like, this is a nice person. Like, was she's going to be evil all of a sudden? And then you start to see, like, where it goes. And I was like, well, that answered there. I guess it answered your question. Yes. So in some ways, it did it well, because my wife's question is like, this is not an evil person, and I don't believe that she's going to be evil. And then by the end of the film, she was like, well, magic. That's fine. It makes
That'll
sense.
do it. Yeah.
What I do like about the end of her arc is that after her Apex Cheetah fight and all of that stuff, which I thought she looked very good. I liked the design a lot.
Yeah,
they avoided cats, and that was primo.
Well, that would have gone full Selena Kyle then, right? Like,
no, she does not become a giant CGI cat at the end of Batman.
Well,
Returns.
no, I mean, if there were cats, it would have been like the cats in the alley with her. Like,
oh no, yeah, just a bunch of cheetahs come out of nowhere and start licking her. Yeah. Oh no. What I did like is that, she has her, like, Luke in the sunset moment, the binary sunset moment, and she's, like, staring off into the distance, and you don't really know if she's sorry, if she got a taste for power and wants more of it. She rattles off all of her degrees, including some zoology, biochemistry stuff.
Yeah.
All those things that, like, make comic book supervillain scientists.
Yes.
So maybe she's not, she got the taste for it and needs to find her own way to do it again.
She's gonna, like, bioengineer it.
Right. And I think that would be interesting to see her come back and do something like that. Because I thought Kristen Wiig did a good job at, like, the role she was handed, and I would like to see more of the evolution of her. I don't know. So I saw somebody online tweet that, like, the saddest moment you didn't see in Wonder Woman 84 is Bruce Wayne having to say goodbye to his wished back parents.
Oh.
Which is probably true. Yeah. Like, really, I mean, that hurts a lot. That hurts. Let's talk about Max Lord. We haven't talked about him yet, and we both love Max Lord from the comic books.
I do.
I liked Pedro Pascal's performance. It was a different Max Lord than I'm used to. It's the Max Lord of the 80s, for sure. Justice League International, like, I'm a businessman, I'm Gordon Gekko, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
That style. So, but it felt like it could have been almost anybody. Like, it didn't have to be Max Lord. It was almost a weird waste of Maxwell Lord as a character.
I got to agree with you. Yeah, it could have been anybody. It could have
been Simon Stagg, who was in this movie, which was fun. I did not expect that. But it could have been him.
Could have been.
Like,
you could have picked anybody. But they picked, I mean, they put the most, popular name on it, I guess. But yeah, really, there was nothing, unique to Maxwell Lord. About his portrayal, but Pedro Pascal, I thought did a very good job. I liked Pedro Pascal's performance better than I like Kristen Wiig's, but both of them were working with what they were given, and the way he was written was not really uniquely Maxwell Lord, but there's nothing wrong about that.
No, I don't think so. But he was definitely, like I said, he's 80s Maxwell Lord. We're used to 2000s Maxwell Lord that's head of Checkmate and a telepath and of this. And, like, it gave us some of that telepathy with the stone and all of that stuff, which I loved just in passing. Oh, that was created by a Roman god. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. All right.
That, in a weird way, is also very 80s. Like, we found this thing that this god made, and you're like, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're just going to. Oh, okay, sure.
Okay. Yeah, in some ways, it's very Indiana Jones.
I was going to say, like, it's totally Indiana Jones. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
We found the Ark of the Covenant. We don't need to explain anything more than that.
Nope. We're good.
Like,
that's
nothing.
all you need to know.
Yeah, that was also again 80s movie, and I kind of liked that it just skirted right over that nonsense.
Yeah.
I liked Pedro Pascal's performance. What I think I liked most about it is the that he would go in and out of an American accent, which he himself has an American accent. So this is a deliberate choice on his part that he is an immigrant with blonde hair, trying to be American, trying to have the American dream. Life is good, but it can be better. Right? This is like he is epitomizing what he has learned about the American dream through television by using television to give that out to everybody else. It's like a snake eating its own tail.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
That was very clever.
That's where I think okay, this is actually really good writing from Jeff Johns.
Right.
Here.
Those are the things that I really liked about the movie. Like there is commentary there. It's saying something. It's demonstrating something about the struggles that somebody has, at the time and still today has to go through to gain acceptance and to be thought of as American.
That's right.
When it's
and
all they
the movie doesn't say that, so a lot of that is Pedro Pascal coming in with that. Maybe they talked about it off camera, maybe they didn't. Who's to say? Probably them. They would know. But I think again, in a lot of ways, 80s movies don't explain themselves. They just are. Audience, if you can't keep up, too bad. Sorry. We're used to spoon-fed films. I turn your attention to The Da Vinci Code or Angels and Demons, where Tom Hanks has to sit somebody down and be like, here's the history of this thing, and here's the history of this thing, and this thing, and this thing, and we're on the run, but I'm going to tell you all this exposition.
And now that you know all this stuff, now you know everything that's going to happen in Act 3.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I liked... I liked all of it. I liked Project Star Wars. That was, like that fun inclusion. Truthfully, a little disappointed his plan wasn't something to do with Omax.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Yeah. I didn't think about that. I did wonder if she was going to snap his neck.
I also wondered that because that's a big thing in the comics. It would be in line with this version of Wonder Woman 2, not the one in this movie, but in the DCEU, it would not be unlike her to do that. I mean, she is a warrior from Themyscira.
That's right.
She fought in World War I. She doesn't like killing people for the good of other people is in her, her.
She was all ready to kill Ares. She was like gunning for it, right, with the sword in her dress and everything last time.
Exactly.
And she's
also using only defensive weapons in this movie.
Yes.
Though. So it's a different. She's gone a different way. Just as a little off topic, did you see that picture that Zack Snyder tweeted out of Wonder Woman in the Crimean War?
No.
It was the placeholder picture they used before Patty Jenkins was hired, and Wonder Woman was going to take place in World War I and blah blah blah. The original intention was the Crimean War instead. So she's just surrounded by all of these super cool people.
Oh, I see it. That's really cool. I'll put this in show notes.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I mean, I really like the first Wonder Woman movie. It's my favorite DCEU movie. And so I love the World War I setting and all that, but the Crimean War would have been something else.
Wow, yeah, 1854 this would have been. That's really, really cool.
Yep.
I like that a lot. That's really cool. Yeah, I could have seen that. But that is to say, I could have seen them doing the neck snapping in this universe. Yep. But they didn't, and that's fine. I don't know that I'm relieved they didn't or anything like that, but just
I don't think it would have served a purpose.
It wouldn't
here
have.
In the same way. Her message of love and self-sacrifice would have been really tarnished if she was like neck snap.
That's not the story they were telling.
We've already seen a beloved superhero snap somebody's neck in these movies, Frank. We don't need to see it again.
I was going to say we've seen it once, and so at this point, what's
And who's to say how many next Batman has snapped, in between movies? So, yeah. So, I thought it was good, but not great. I think it falls pretty much in the middle of the DCEU movies for me, which if I put them in order, they're like all over the place. Like it's Wonder Woman, and then it's Batman v Superman, and then it's Aquaman. So it's like, and then it's Man of Steel. So like the taste ranges all over the place, but it's right in the middle. It could have done some things better. Probably be less comic booky.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a way that I think the first one is not comic booky, really, until you get to the end with Ares, and now it's a big smoke monster fight, and you're like, that. It actually took away from the power of the first movie. And I think that this movie gets both of those endings. Like, it gives you both, right? It gives you the quiet, inspirational message ending that we see in every Supergirl season. And then we also get the I'm gonna kick your butt ending for traditional superhero movies. So you get potato and potato, which is good. But it's fine. I think things like the gold armor were hyped and unnecessary in some ways. Like, it was like, this felt like more like to sell a toy than to serve there was a narrative purpose to it, but the kind of like hero that you are and honoring that legacy. Great to see Linda Carter show up at the end.
That was fun.
Yeah. Wearing her own Wonder Woman bracelets and everything. It almost made me think, like, for a hot second, I was like, did you just canonize the Wonder Woman television show? Like, just for the briefest of seconds, but
a little bit.
I don't think so, but a little bit.
And that's what Jeff Johns does, doesn't he? Like, he's really good at folding in old continuity and making it sort of part of the new continuity.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. He is. So what a
in a sense, that's what they did here. Yeah, it was it was a fun watch, and it had good parts. It had some not so good parts, but I enjoyed myself watching it. And you're right; it didn't feel like 2.5 hours. It felt shorter than that. Mm-hmm. And it was a good Christmas, blockbuster release. For me, anyway. So, yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. I think it was a B. I give it a B.
Yeah, I think it's I'm just like, it's okay to find movies okay.
Yes.
Or something okay. Things can just be good. They don't have to be the greatest thing ever every time you see it, because nothing will ever live up to that standard. Because the greatest thing ever that bar will only get higher, and you yourself will only push it there.
Yeah.
Nobody else will do it but you, and then you will eventually always be disappointed.
You need to rate these things on a scale from 1 to 10, not 7 to 10, because like if 7 is your 0 essentially, like that's an unfair standard. Like that is just an unfair standard. You can't have, the bottom of the scale be a 7, something that's like a solid B or B minus or whatever you want to call it. Like that's I don't know. That just seems like overly critical and unnecessarily critical. It was fine. It wasn't Patty Jenkins' best movie. That's fine. I'm still excited to see her tackle Star Wars.
Me too.
I still think she's a great director. I still think Jeff Johns is a great writer. I still think Gal Gadot is incredible as Wonder Woman. Actually, everyone seems to agree that she was like the best part about the movie. Even people who didn't like the movie are like, no, but she's fantastic. Like she's great.
She's so good. Yeah, she's great. She's got it all down. There's a warmth about her that really emanates off screen. And into our hearts, and I love that about her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, she has
hard
that.
Agree.
She has that. If I may, she has that Christopher Reeve quality.
I totally know what you mean.
She can say, "I stand for truth and justice," and the Amazonian way, and I go, "I believe you. I believe that you actually do stand for that because you're a good person." And I like that. I think that's her greatest strength. And she displays a lot of emotion in this film, which I also appreciated. It wasn't all just kick butt. And so Frank, this was wonderful. Why don't you tell the people where they can find us?
You all can find us at beerwithgeeks.com. That's our home on the internet for this show. And from there, you can go to a whole host of other places. You can subscribe to this show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher or anything like that. And you can help us out by doing that. If you're listening in your web browser or sitting at your desk or wherever you might be, that's awesome, and thank you so much for doing that. But if you want to hit subscribe, and it's free to subscribe, and you can get every episode as they get released straight to your podcast app of choice. We're on all the apps, all the voice assistants, all that fun stuff. You can also email us, beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. Send us feedback, send us your thoughts. If you disagree with something we say or hard agree with something we say, feel free to share it with us there or on Twitter at beerwithgeeks. You can also find all of our other projects. If you go to beerwithgeeks.com, you'll find links to Thought Bubble Audio, where you'll see that's our network that this show is a part of, and we host a few other podcasts on the network as well, and some of our friends do too. So check those out at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. And after you've done all those things, you've supported us so much, and thank you so much for doing that. If you still want to help us out, if you want to help pay some bills around here, you can head on over to patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio, and that would be a tremendous help, where you can get all kinds of fun rewards for subscribing for as little as $1 a month, which works out to about $0.25 per episode, which seems like a decent deal to me. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us in all those various and sundry ways.
That was very nice, Frank. I thought that you really got the point across, what we're about and where you can find us.
No, it was good, but it can be better.
Got it. All right, well, Frank, until next time, cheers.
Cheers. And I'm going to hit record again on this other thingamajig.
That's good. The thingamajigs, they're the thing that, you really need to record on.
That's what
Frank.
makes the whole jig go round. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. The thing makes the jig go round,
It does.
It
does. It surely does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
Welcome
understand.
to Beer with Geeks, where Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. We will discuss. Yes.
Imagine if that was your teacher voice.
That is my teacher voice.
No. No wonder you get such great feedback from the kids.
Oh, yeah. I get something all right. Yeah. All right. Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my wonderful friend who loves the 80s. It's Frank. How are you today?
I am wearing leg warmers, and I have shoulder pads, and I'm at a disco called Tech Noir.
I got a better opening.
Okay, go for it.
I got a better opening.